Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. Man, I almost got my chest hair sticking out, the 2 or 3 that I have. Happy Thursday. I don't like that either, all buttoned up. Happy Thursday. Thank you for joining me. Awesome show planned for you today. Hopefully, we'll get to Steve Kim, we'll get to Butter, we'll get to Shemeka, but hopefully I will contain myself and control my emotions today. But man, do I have a show and a topic that I'm fired up about. The Cis Rights Movement. Cis Rights. You know that cisgender deal? Riley Gaines, Caitlin Clark, Sage Steele, Samatha Ponder. I'm going to talk a lot about them today. I want to talk a lot about the volleyball boycott that's happening in the Rocky Mountains, that's happening to San Jose State. And I'm going to compare this volleyball boycott, these 4 universities that have refused to play San Jose State because they have a male player. I'm going to compare it to the Montgomery bus boycott. The Montgomery bus boycott, the Civil Rights Movement, the 1950s. We are at the beginning of a new civil rights movement, the Cis Rights Movement. Women, standing up for women. It's awesome. We're going to get into it. Today's show is brought to you by First Cup Coffee. First Cup is a Christian-owned Patriot coffee company that stands for core values, family, and building community across the nation. First Cup's freshly roasted beans are delivered in ground or whole bean pods and bulk. Go to firstcup.com and use the promo code FEARLESS to save an additional 10% on your order. And if you subscribe, you save another 10% for the life of your subscription. First Cup, thank you for making my day and morning brighter, and today's show a possibility. When I say today's show, and I loved yesterday's show about Matt Barnes. Loved it. And we'll circle back to Matt Barnes at some point. That's an ongoing story. Still reaching out and talking to people that grew up with Matt Barnes. That's an ongoing story. But this show is fearless. And we keep moving to the next fearless topic, the next fearless topic, the next fearless topic. And this topic today is something you will not see on ESPN. You will not see it on Fox Sports. You will not see it in corporate America. Now, just think about this. Volleyball, women's volleyball. When is the last time women's volleyball was a big deal in corporate sports media? Oh, that's right. A little black girl's auntie went on Twitter and said, "My niece was called a racial slur when playing against Brigham Young." And all of ESPN and Fox Sports melted down. Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp donned their racial capes and went out. Oh, Rachel Richardson. Her auntie said on Twitter that she was called a racial slur, and the next thing you know, ESPN and Fox Sports melted down, and we got your back, baby girl. We're going to put an end to this racism. And Dawn Staley put on her cape and said, "Oh, I coach basketball at South Carolina, but because this girl's auntie said that she was called a racial slur at Brigham Young, I'm not going to play Brigham Young." Remember, that's the last time volleyball was in the news. Somebody's auntie said that their niece was called a name at Brigham Young. Big deal. Stop the presses. Everybody caping up to protect this little black girl who may have been called a racial slur at a volleyball match. It was later proven to be another hoax, another fabricated, another exaggerated story by the girl's auntie who's some sort of race baiter. But now that we actually have a real story going on in the volleyball world, a real story that is significant to all of America, crickets from ESPN and Fox Sports and everybody else in the corporate media space. No one has anything to say. No one wants to cape up and run out and defend the young women that are taking a stand against men playing against women in sports. Nothing. I looked, I searched. Where's this on ESPN? Help me out. Those of you in the chat, those of you watching this show, maybe I've missed it. Put it in the chat, put it in the comments, tweet it to me, email me at fearlessblazeshow@gmail.com. Maybe I'm missing it. But the San Jose State volleyball team has a man playing on his team, and he is the best player on the women's volleyball team. And yesterday, Utah State became the fourth school to say, nah, I ain't doing that, homie. I'm not sending my little girls, these little women, out there to play against a man. We're not doing it. This is the Montgomery bus boycott that is basically credited with starting the civil rights movement. Remember Rosa Parks wouldn't take a back seat on the bus? I'm comparing Rosa Parks to Riley Gaines, the swimmer, the woman who stood up against Bill Thomas, now Leah Thomas, the man that wanted to swim against women in the Ivy League. You guys remember Riley Gaines? Of course you do. She's everywhere. She's the leader of the Cis Rights Movement. She is the Rosa Parks, the first woman to take a major stand and say, hey, man, cut this out. This is garbage. I'm going to unpack this, how important this is, this Cis Rights Movement, because it's the thing that will perhaps bring all of us with some sort of biblical worldview together. Put our differences aside and come together and say, hey, man, let's cut it out. X and X, X and Y, they're not the same. A dude with a bat and balls is not the same as a woman with a vagina. Let's cut it out. There's finally an issue that we can all agree on, and we can all say, you know what? It's time to stand our ground and draw a line in the sand and say, enough is enough. Hats off to these young 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old women in the Rocky Mountains, the women at Boise State, the women at Wyoming, the women at Southern Utah, the women at Utah State. Hats off to them. Thank you, ladies, for joining the fight. But first, I want to thank the pioneers who made it possible and who inspired them. Riley Gaines at the top of my list, the swimmer from Kentucky who took on this fight and has been outspoken on it and has been the face of this fight. Hats off to Riley Gaines. She is our Rosa Parks. This next person I'm going to mention is a bit more silent and isn't outspoken. And maybe she's unintentionally being a leader in the Cis Rights Movement. But she deserves credit. Because what Caitlyn Jenner is doing in the WNBA, and we know how hostile that league is to cisgender people, cisgender women. Caitlin Clark has stood her ground, taken the blows, the arrows, the smearing of her and her fan base. She's been poked in the eye, stabbed in the eye by Dejanay Carrington. She's dealt with all the racist comments from Cheryl Swoops to all these other people that want to pile on. She hasn't bowed to Asia Wilson and all the people that admit your white privilege. You heterosexual white woman, bow to me, a Yas queen. She hasn't done it. And again, I don't know where Caitlin Clark stands. Who knows? But I know what she represents, and I know why people have jumped on her bandwagon in massive numbers. Because there's a Cis Rights Movement going on. People are start understanding this has gotten out of control with the alphabet mafia and the people that want to make everybody androgynous and want to pretend that men and women are all the same. Caitlin Clark is the Jackie Robinson of the Cis Rights Movement. That's what Caitlin Clark is. I said this at the beginning of the WNBA season, and people called me crazy when I said, holy cow, she's going to endure what Jackie Robinson endured. Maybe there won't be death threats because Jackie Robinson dealt with legitimate death threats. But everything else about her journey will be just as difficult, if not more difficult, than Jackie Robinson's. Because at least half the media, maybe more, was on Jackie Robinson's side. 90% of the media is trying to figure out a way to demonize Caitlin Clark and her fan base. I'm going to go further into that on the Christine Brennan story, but I want to get to these other two people that are right in my lane. And I'm just warning you now, Ryan Clark may have some video here of me. Randy Moss may have some video here of me getting emotional and maybe shedding a tear, and they can throw it up in my face, and I'm just as soft as them. But when I was thinking about this morning, when I was thinking about what these women are doing and have done, I got a little emotional. I'm just going to be honest. And so I may get emotional here again. But Sage Steele and Samatha Ponder, two titans of the media, two heavyweights at ESPN, they sacrificed their jobs and their careers to stand up for women, to stand up for little girls, so that women would have a safe place and a safe space to compete in sports. They wouldn't back down on this issue. What happened to Sage Steele? ESPN cut bait with her. What happened to Samatha Ponder? ESPN cuts bait with her. Because they wouldn't bow to the LGBTQIA plus transgender insanity. These women, Sage Steele, Samatha Ponder, they're John Carlos and Tommy Smith. Anybody remember, is it 64 or 68 Olympics? I'm old, I can't remember. All this stuff, too much stuff has happened in my lifetime. But they're John Carlos and Tommy Smith. And they paid the ultimate price for standing their ground on this issue. Men and women are not the same. Quit playing this game. I'm not going along with this insanity. Let's keep these spaces safe for women to compete. Let's lean in to, and again, they weren't calling these names, they weren't thinking this, but we want to create more Caitlin Clarks. We want to create more Aaliyah Bostons. We want to create more Kelsey Mitchells. We want to create more Riley Gaineses. We want to create more great women athletes and competitors. We don't want men over here in this space. This is common sense. They stood their ground, and their careers, million-dollar careers at ESPN, got killed over it. And I look at Sage Steele and Samatha Ponder, and this is where I do get emotional, because I just think about the cowardice of men. That we got women out here making sacrifices we're not willing to make. These, Sage is divorced now, but Samatha Ponder, they got kids, just like you got kids. And they stood their ground and dealt with the economic repercussions because they have a pair, and how little conviction we have. Biblical decision. And so we got women out here on the front lines instead of us. And this goes, now I'm pointing out these four in particular. Riley Gaines, Caitlin Clark, Sage Steele, Samatha Ponder. But I honestly think all the time about all these other women that are out here on the front lines of these issues. Allie Beth Stuckey, Sarah Gonzalez. I'm going to say it, and I'm sorry that she took money from Russia, but Lauren Chen, I wish you hadn't taken the money from Russia. If you did, Lauren, I still love you, but damn it, I loved you. And I love all these women. They got a pair. They have actual conviction. They're willing to sacrifice for what's right. I'm going to call a name that'll get me into trouble, but I'm just sorry. It's real. It's what I think. It's why, Isabella Moody, I'm going to continue to follow you. Some of the stuff you say I don't like, but damn it, you got a pair. You got convictions. That's where I'm at with it. I will, any of them that got convictions, any of them willing to stand up and do what men should be doing, I got your back. It's embarrassing what we as men, it should have never come to this. If we had drawn a line in the sand and say, hey man, what do we do? A man with balls in here showering with women, competing against women. Now we got little 18, 19, 20-year-old kids in the Rocky Mountains showing bigger balls than men. This Cis Rights Movement is important. And when I think about where I'm at with it, on the whole, and I don't want to put I'm no sort of hero. I'm a disgusting, immoral idiot. Not put myself on a pedestal. But I'm going to say this, that you'll hear me today in this, and, obviously Sage Steele is half black, half white, but people are going to hear me caping up for these white women. And, oh, you sell out. You love them snow bunnies. Say it all, because it's no different. And get ready for the bleep button. And if you got sensitive ears, tune out. But it's no different. When black people were getting treated the way these young women are getting treated, being treated unfairly, being exploited, when the civil rights movement was going on, and when white people would stand up and say, hey man, treat these people right. Let them vote. Give them their full U.S. citizenship. They called them nigger lovers. And they dealt with that and kept running. And so if y'all want to call me a hunky lover, a cracker lover, a snow bunny lover, I don't care. I'm standing up for what's right. And everybody knows it's right. This alphabet mafia crap, this transgender insanity. And do I have sympathy for them? Absolutely. They're confused. But their confusion is because the country has become so secular and walked away from a biblical worldview. And we've embraced, hey, whatever you think, whatever you feel, that's the reality, that's truth. No, it's not. This is so much bigger than sports, what's going on here with this Cis Rights Movement. We finally have something that is making people stand up. I'm embarrassed that it's primarily women and that men are running for cover and that men are doing everything to protect their check. And but I do think this is the movement that could save America. Let's take a look at this on just a deeper level of Utah, where a lot of this is happening in the Rocky Mountains. The governor, I want to read you, I think his name is Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, tweeted out last night, I stand with the students, coaches, and leadership at Southern Utah University, Utah State University in their decision to forego their women's volleyball matches against San Jose State. It is essential that we preserve a space for women to compete fairly and safely. Our female athletes are left grappling with this difficult issue because the NCAA has failed in its responsibility to protect female athletes in women's sports. It's time for the NCAA to take this seriously and protect our female student athletes. That's the governor of Utah being forced to drop his balls because a bunch of young women took a stand. That's why, man, you women are, what you're doing is awesome. And any way that I can support you, I have your back. I'm sick and I'm pissed off at those of us that men, that we have to run in behind women and their courage and conviction. But I nothing but respect for you women. And I want to just add this additional piece of just context. And this isn't me trying to, I'm just going to say it and not put any context around it, just the facts. I'm not some homophobe. I pray for the gays. I pray for them. I got my own issues that I got to pray for myself. I'm not, for the most part, I want God to deal with them on their sin. I don't have a problem. When I think about this issue, this isn't gay versus straight. This is sanity versus insanity. And again, some of this I'm speculating on, but take the Erica Wheeler, the backup point guard for the Indiana Fever. I love her. I really do. The way she protected Caitlin Clark, the way her energy around that team, how she's the glue to that team, I love her. I'm assuming she's gay, but I could be wrong, but I don't care. She's a woman. She should be able to play in the WNBA, and she shouldn't be out there competing against men. And trust me, if we keep going this insane direction, there will be men in the WNBA. We've already heard Dawn Staley, who's basically the leader of women's basketball, say that she's for men playing against women. I don't want that, because if they let men play against women, the next thing you know, Erica Wheeler won't be in the WNBA. I'm not trying to gather people on my side. I just want you to understand me. Like, I love excellence. I love people. My favorite, I'm not going to call the name because I want to, but my favorite executive in sports, college or pro, it's a gay woman, as far as I know. I think she's married to a woman, as far as I know. But she's the best executive in sports that I know. Awesome, fabulous. I mean, I authentically love her. Pray for her, just like pray for me and my gluttony. It's not. We're not hung up on the. Again, anybody that watches my show knows that I'm not the best friend of the LGBTQ. I like people, not genders, not sexualities, none of that. Not skin color. I like people. People treat me well. People do an excellent job. I love them and will do anything for them. Period, end of story. But this whole deal where we have gone, hey, people with serious mental illness, a man with a bat and balls running around pretending to be a woman has a mental illness. It's not a controversial statement. Because if I said today, hey, people that are racist have a mental illness, everybody just nod their head and clap. Yeah, you're right. But if I say a man with a bat and balls that thinks he's a woman has a mental illness, oh, now I've crossed the line. Now I've gone too far. It's this Cis Rights Movement, I think most people with common sense we can all agree on and we can all rally around this. And this movement, the Cis Rights Movement, the protection of the belief that there are differences between men and women that must be recognized, and we must make rules that bow to those facts. It's an important issue that can bring people together, and this is the point I wanted to make about Utah. Got a little sidetracked, started rambling, but Utah is a different kind of state. It's conservative, but it has conservative in name only type people like Mitt Romney. They're so afraid of being called racist or homophobic that they get soft and they don't stand up for what they really believe in. I want to be careful here, but I'm just going to keep it real. It's like when your religion is Mormon and somebody, John Smith or somebody else wrote it up or whatever, maybe that's why you don't stand that firm, because you're not standing on the solid, firm ground of perhaps other Christians. That's a small critique. I don't want to lose anybody. I'm not going to apologize. It's what I think. Anyway, you're not standing on firm ground, so you're weak. And you fall, oh my God, they might call me racist, so let me bend on this issue. Let me be Mitt Romney, and I can't, Donald Trump, I hate Donald Trump. But this issue here, transgenderism. Look at Utah, look at they got a pair. They're standing up. This issue is critical to returning America to sanity. Once the scales come off your eyes on this issue, now you'll start seeing the rest of the world differently. Because here is one of the biggest stories in sports. Group of young women refusing to play because there's a man out there on the court competing for the other team. This should be one of the top stories on ESPN. It's nowhere. That should be a clue. That should be a sign. If someone's auntie can claim their niece got called a name at Brigham Young, and that becomes a major story at ESPN, but people actually refusing to play, a boycott. Oh, that's not news at all. Let's avoid it. Why are they avoiding it? Because they know that this issue takes the scales off people's eyes, makes them have to deal with the insanity and the truth of the insanity that has invaded this country. They don't want you talking about this. They don't want to have to discuss and cover, like, why are 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old girls refusing to play against a man? They don't want to have that discussion on ESPN because they know once people see that, they'll say, well, who's promoting? Who's behind this? You got leftists. Leftists want to erase the differences between men and women. Leftists are the reason why people hate Caitlin Clark. I'm going to circle you all the way back just for a foundational piece of this understanding. Joe Biden appointed to the Supreme Court one of these people who can't determine what a woman is, can't describe it, can't say it. He put one of these insane people on the Supreme Court. And we went for it, oh, she's black. Let's make history, she's black. No, she's insane, certifiably. That's who we put on the Supreme Court. You didn't put a black woman on the Supreme Court. You put an insane person and a coward, unwilling to say what a woman is. Play the clip.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe the meaning
biologist.
of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the
All right.
law and I decide.
Well,
so I'm not.
The fact that you can't give me a straight answer about something as fundamental as what a woman is underscores the dangers of the kind of progressive education that we are hearing about.
That's the discussion they don't want to have, particularly in an election year, particularly 35 days or 34 days or how many ever days it is before the election. They don't want you talking about this, that the other side wants you to adopt the mentality that there's no difference between men and women and that men should be able to pretend to be women and women should be able to pretend to be men. They don't want you to have that discussion because once you start having that discussion and start, well, who's behind this theory, this belief? Then you have to come to grips with, hey, these people are crazy. They've got some assistant health secretary, some fat old man dressed up in a dress and a wig pretending to be a man or a woman or whatever. He's pretending to be a woman. They got men in high heels running around in high political office. They don't want you thinking about that. They don't want you thinking about the insanity. They want your daughters in locker rooms with men, with their balls out. They don't want you thinking about that. And that's why they won't cover this. And they're praying to death that somebody's auntie hops onto Twitter or X today and says, oh, my niece, she got called the B word and got called a nigger. Oh, please. They want someone to do that so they can talk about that. So they, oh, white supremacy, it's coming to get you. It's in a state, and that's why this is all orchestrated. Look at how much attention they've placed on, oh, these WNBA players, the harassment. Brittany Griner, she goes out on the court, they're calling her names. Oh, the racial slurs everywhere. Alyssa Thomas, everybody. Let's hold all these meetings, and how dare Christine Brennan, how dare she ask Dejanay Carrington a question? Oh, the racism that they're dealing with, it's all a distraction. Again, they're using these women in women's sports to promote the idea that, oh, racism, racism, racism. When no, there's a glaring problem out here. They're trying to inject men into women's spaces and into women's sports because they're so stupid, they don't believe women can carry a sport all by themselves. And that's what makes Caitlin Clark so dangerous. That's what makes Caitlin Clark worthy of destruction. Because Caitlin Clark is proving just the opposite. No, leave these women alone. Let these women compete amongst themselves. And eventually, a superstar will emerge. And one has. Her name is Caitlin Clark. She's got a boyfriend. She's white. She's got 2 parents. And according to Asia Wilson and the other Yas queens, she won't bow to black women. She won't acknowledge her privilege. Caitlin Clark is the problem, when actually Caitlin Clark is the solution. She's the inspiration. She's the proof. No different than Jackie Robinson was the proof, like, whoo, boy, these black dudes can play some baseball. And you know what? if we put them in a spot where they have to compete and survive, they will figure it out and they will compete and survive. The left wants you to believe, no, black man, you can't make it unless I pave the road for you, unless I grease the skids for you, unless I give you a helping hand and drag you across the finish line. You can't do what Jackie Robinson can do. And that's what they're telling Caitlin Clark. You can't do this. You're not the star. You're not the person driving these ratings. It's the Yas Queens. It's Angel Reese. And if we have to inject a few, it's Brittany Griner. It's not you, Caitlin. This is people. How could you compare the civil rights movement to sports? Do you not understand that Jackie Robinson in 1947, before the civil rights movement, he sparked the civil rights movement? There would have been no Montgomery bus boycott without Jackie Robinson. Do you understand how this works and how important sports are to all of this? Riley Gaines, swimmer, it's in the sports world. She has sparked this by taking a stand on Bill Thomas. This is huge. And you know, I have this conversation all the time with conservatives. I don't consider myself a conservative. I'm an evangelical. But I try to explain to conservatives, you don't understand narrative. You don't know how to tell your story in a compelling fashion. And that's why you get your brains beat in. That's why you lose every single culture war, every single one. You don't know how to tell the story. Now there are a couple people emerging. Matt Walsh, he knows how to tell a story. Good for him. But for the most part, it's a group of facts people. And again, that's why Ben Shapiro, as people, very comfortable with him being the leader of the conservative movement. Facts over feelings. You can't tell a story. Your facts don't matter. There's opposition that they're very comfortable with because it's not real opposition. And then there's opposition that they're actually afraid of. People that know how to tell a story and connect the dots and tell it in a compelling way to encourage, spark people to take action. That's what Riley Gaines has done. That's what Caitlin Clark has done, perhaps unintentionally. That's what Sage Steele and Samatha Ponder and Allie Beth Stuckey and Sarah Gonzalez and Lauren Chin before, you know, Putin or whoever got a hold. I love you, Lauren. I'm so sorry about what happened. I hope it's not true, but anyway, I'll get off. And there's a bunch of others that I just can't call off the top of my head. But these women out here taking a stand on this cis issue, on, hey, we've had enough of this. You're actually going to save America. Megyn Kelly. Yeah, holy cow, how could I forget Megyn Kelly? You know I love you, Megyn. Call me a snow bunny lover. Melissa Tate, I see you on Twitter. Black woman, she's awesome. There's Shemeka Michelle. That's probably my favorite person on the planet. It's not a color thing. It's do you have a pair where you stand your ground? And as men, we should be sitting here embarrassed that we're counting on women to win a war that we allowed. We should have drawn this line in the sand a long time ago because it's dudes with balls that are bullying women and trying to take over their sports. And we should have slapped them down before they ever got rolling with this BS. It's our daughters, it's our sisters, it's our wives, it's our children. You know, obviously I got an obsession with Caitlin Clark. So I want to bring a couple of things into this as it relates to Caitlin Clark, because she's so critical. And again, as the Jackie Robinson, she has success. It's going to encourage and inspire other women to stand up. And even though, you know, Caitlin's doing it very subtly, if at all, maybe it's all unintentional, but I do know she's the target. And I saw that Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe were talking about this, and they're all trying to frame this, the Caitlin Clark deal, in this racial envelope, and they're wrong, and I'm going to explain to you why they're wrong. But we're going to start with Sue Bird on her podcast with her friend, or whatever they're calling each other themselves. SOT number 2. Let's play that.
Can we just like call a spade a spade? Racism has been impacting the WNBA well before this year. This is not a new thing.
Sure.
This is, and in that way, I do think Caitlin's being used as a pawn. Mm-hmm. Caitlin didn't bring racism to the WNBA. This has been happening. And that, I think, is what's been such a shock for all of us, that other people are surprised by this. We've been trying to tell you. And once again, for so long, as a player, I would almost joke. I'd be like, I would have loved to have shut up and dribble. In so many ways, I would have loved to have been valued as a basketball player. I would have been loved to have been spoken about just for my play. I think everybody in the league can say that. But nobody ever let us do that. So what happened? We started to build a backbone, a little bit of an identity. We understood that in order to push our league forward, we were going to have to combat these things. And then you know what else we learned? It feels good to stand up for yourself. It feels even better to stand up for others. We started to learn that people were learning from us and able to follow us in a different way. And who are we following? Black women. So that's such an important part. And I think, again, I get sad when I talk about this a little bit, in that we're still not talking about basketball.
No.
We're still not allowed to be focused on for our basketball play. And it's not to say we're not going to continue to combat these things. That'll always exist, I think, in the fabric of our league. But we still aren't talking about basketball.
Yeah.
They're not talking about basketball because you don't want to talk about basketball, just as you described there. You couldn't get any traction based on your basketball, and so you decided, hey, we got to talk about racism and sexism to draw attention. We have to kneel during the national anthem to draw attention. It's bad strategy. You just wanted attention. You were being an attention whore. And so because your basketball couldn't do it, you went to other things. It's like a kid that can't get attention from its parents. They start acting out. They'll do anything I'll start skipping school. I'll start smoking marijuana. I'll start talking back to my teacher. I'll start doing things to get my parents' attention because I'm not getting enough attention. That's what you did. You chose bad behavior because your basketball wasn't good enough. And instead of saying someone showed up here who plays good enough basketball to draw attention, and now people are actually evaluating my basketball. They're having conversations about, well, who's Rookie of the Year? Who's the MVP? Is it Caitlin Clark? Is it Asia Wilson? People are talking about basketball. And so this whole thing of, racism stopped the WNBA. No, it didn't. Here's the facts. Here's what's been the problem with the WNBA. Now, I'm sorry, these are just true facts. You had too many women tatted up and looking like men, that it was unattractive. People don't want to see that. People don't want to see women doing an impersonation of men. I know that everybody in San Francisco and everybody on the left loves a drag show, but there are a lot of traditional sports fans who have no interest in going to a drag show. I'm someone that used to go to Vegas a lot. Never went to a drag show. Never appealed to me. Now, and that's not me saying, oh, I'm the most heterosexual person in the world, and I am man, hear me. That's not, it just never drew my attention. Spearmint Rhino, yeah, drew my attention. And that's a lot of people. You would be shocked at how many people have no interest in ever seeing men dressed up as women or women dressed up as men. It's not a good sales product. And so people weren't interested. Caitlin Clark shows up with her ponytail and no tattoos and plays a brand of basketball that's exciting and fun to watch, and voila, a crowd shows up. And then they take advantage, like, oh, we got Angel Reese, who likes to be a woman and dress up as a woman. She's going to lean into that. We're going to pair her with Cameron Brink, who likes to dress up and appear like a woman. And the next thing you know, the brand of the WNBA started to change. Like, oh my God, these are women playing basketball. And Caitlin Clark plays in a way that's exciting and fun. And then the next thing you know, Jason Whitlock's watching and he starts going, well, look at Kelsey Mitchell. That's fun too. I like that. And then I look at Aaliyah Boston. I go, man, this woman's 6'4", 6'5", but man, her spirit, her soul, her energy is so positive, I can't help but root for her. And then I'm like, holy cow, this little Erica Wheeler, yeah, she got some tats and, not on the super feminine side, but man, do I love her heart, and do I love the way she supports her teammates, particularly Caitlin Clark. And the next thing you know, I like Erica Wheeler too. That's how the process works. Y'all want to talk about racism, and Sue Bird thinks she has to bow down to angry black women in order to be accepted. She just unpacked how she basically went through the same experience as everybody else in the WNBA, and she's a white woman. And she was ignored no different than the black players were ignored. But we've been dealing with racism even before Caitlin Clark. You ain't been dealing with racism. You've been dealing with, because again, is the NBA, Butter, how many black players do you think are in the NBA? What percentage do you think the black players in the NBA, in the NFL? They don't have a problem drawing a crowd. Black players in the NBA, black players in the NFL, they don't have a problem drawing attention. So people just turn on and off their black races. Oh, well, we're good with black men and we'll support them. But black women, we hate them and we won't watch them. And so it's all racist. Nah, your product wasn't any good. It wasn't marketed properly. It just properly, appropriately, smartly, intelligently. And you didn't have a superstar. Now you got one. And instead of complaining about what you didn't have, you should be thankful for what you do have. Some women are getting it, and hats off to them, and particularly hats off to these great, courageous women that are, because this cis issue is going to open people's minds, and we should be doing the job. I'm talking about those of us that are evangelical, those of us that call yourself a conservative. We should be talking about the Cis Rights Movement and what we're putting women through, and what these courageous women that are standing up, young, older, we should be championing them and talking about them. It's a way to open people's eyes to, hey, the differences between us and them. They want men naked in front of your daughters. They want men dressed up as women shaking their balls in front of your kids at drag-friendly or child-friendly drag shows. They want Men dressed up as women, reading books to your children at the library. Let parents, let that sink through. That will clear up the cloudiness. That will help them understand, like, yeah, Donald Trump ain't perfect, but compared to this, compared to some man shaking his bat and balls in front of my kids, I'll choose option B. That's why they're not talking about this. They will talk about a little black girl, auntie, saying she got called a name, but women actually refusing to compete against a man in collegiate sports. Crickets. No one, it's not happening. Look the other way. We got to force them to look at it, force them to discuss it. This is why I don't like these people. This is why I do the things that I do. People are, what's the point? Why are you criticizing Matt Barnes? This man has kids. I believe he has a daughter. He's a former professional athlete. He's running around pretending like the KKK greenlit him in 1998 when he should be, as a man and a father, saying, hey man, what y'all doing letting guys as athletic as me compete against girls? Don't you? I got a daughter. She's probably going to be athletic and tall like me. I don't want her competing against men. But instead, because Matt Barnes is a plant and a mixed nut, let me tell you about what happened to me in high school. KKK. Orders came down from the Grand Wizard to kill Matt Barnes. I can't stand them. They're cowards. They're puppets. Stephen A. Smith, why did I expose him? It's not jealousy. The man has an opportunity to run out. He's got kids. He says he has 2 daughters. He's into the sports world. He's looking at men invade the sports world. Nothing to say here. Quiet. Oh, I'm the boss. Pay me $25 million a year, massa, and I'll get out here and I will take a shit on Kyrie Irving. Whoever you tell me to go after Massa, if they tweet out the wrong thing, Massa, I will stomp them out for $25 million a year. But I'll say nothing when boys and men come into women's spaces and run women out of sports and make little girls and women get naked in front of another man with bat and balls. I'll say nothing about that. But old Kyrie Irving, if Mr. White Folks tells me you tweeted out the wrong movie poster, I will kill you and assassinate you. That's why I can't stand these people. They're cowards. And they, I'm pro-black. No, you ain't. You pro Mr. White Folks and whatever he tells you to say. You know what? I'm getting so fired up these last few days. I'm starting to get concerned about myself. I think I've done all I want to do here. We'll bring Steve Kim in. Before we do, don't kid yourself. The future of the Supreme Court is on the ballot. These radical leftists want to eliminate the court's conservative majority by packing the Supreme Court with their own hand-picked justices to get the outcomes they want. At First Liberty, they call this assault on the court what it really is, a Supreme Court coup. These extremists want to eliminate the court's conservative majority by packing the Supreme Court with their own hand-picked justices to get the outcomes they want. As the 2024 election approaches, we need to do 3 things. Find out where each of your candidates stand on the radical issues of packing and purging the court. Share what you learn with everyone. Do your civic duty and vote. The future of the court, of preserving it, as an independent judiciary, is literally in your hands. If we lose the court, we lose the country. Go to Supreme Court Coup, that's COUP.com/Jason. That's SupremeCoop.com/Jason. Last time, Supreme Coup, COUP.com/Jason. Let's stop these radical leftists from taking over the Supreme Court and putting more insane, Ketanji Brown Jackson, I don't know what a woman is, clowns on the Supreme Court. Or maybe you want your daughter, you want your child sitting front row at a drag show with a man shaking his balls in their face. Maybe that's what you want. Do nothing. Steve Kim next. This isn't my homophobia creeping in. It's just me fact checking. If sports were what they used to be, Caleb Williams would in no way walk into a locker room with his fingernails painted. I don't care what his sexuality is. He just wouldn't do it because it wouldn't be allowed. It would violate every locker room code known to man. But because we've emasculated sports, the Chicago Bears rookie quarterback feels very comfortable coming to work with painted fingernails. What are we doing? We're trying to make women men. We're putting women through the tests that used to be reserved for men. None of this is criticism of Caitlin Clark. It's actually hats off to her, but it's asking the question of why. And we're letting Caitlin Clark again. Right now, I've been arguing for months now. She's the biggest star in American sports. She's the only thing I've seen that I would compare. I don't even compare her to Michael Jordan. The only person I really compare her to is Tiger Woods.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps and I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back. Cosell, welcome back to the show. I think I've cooled down. I've sweated, I think, during every show this week, and that's not my norm, but I'm pretty fired up. Cosell, am I making too much of this volleyball situation here, where we now have 4 teams that have refused to play against San Jose State? I think we're at the beginning of a very important movement that I'm calling the Cis Rights Movement. Am I making too much of this moment?
Yeah, I don't think so. But the question is this an indictment on the organizers of the sport or the media? I'm just wondering, how many teams will it take? How many consecutive games will have to be boycotted and forfeited? Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it 15? Is it 20 before somebody has the guts to say, wait a minute, this is kind of a story here, or what is going on? You know, I mentioned this a couple of years ago with you, Jason, that when Leah Thomas was just dominating women's swimming, as someone who transitioned, don't want to get into trouble here, that it was like the most open secret that this was wrong, but nobody would say it. And it got to a point that ESPNW, a specific website, a subsidiary of the worldwide leader in sports and entertainment, has a website dedicated to advocating, supporting, and promoting women's sports, right? That's all they're about, which is good. They did not write a single word about this issue. It's almost like it did not exist. And maybe the term lying by omission, maybe that's not completely analogous to this situation, but I do find it interesting. I think if enough teams eventually just say, no, we'll pass, we'll take the L, maybe, just maybe someone in the mainstream media will speak out about it. But the question is, Jason, I think it's very legitimate. Are they even allowed to?
Well, I don't think they're allowed to.
Yeah.
You know, this will be a nice test for Shannon Sharp. He maybe even for Pat McAfee. These guys, McAfee really does love to freelance a little bit, and this is right up his alley. Shannon Sharp has the freedom to freelance a bit, and, you know, taking a stance on this issue might help Club Shay Shay with, the rumors about him being Club They. And
Oh,
so,
Jason. Jeez. I mean,
if we had to
dog.
if we had to take a bet, if we put Vegas odds on who at ESPN or Fox Sports would be the person to take the other side of this issue, take the Riley Gaines side of this issue, who is it? It ain't Mina Kimes.
It might be Shannon, though, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I was going to say McAfee, but again, you got to look at the demographics here. Shannon, being a black man, might have more license. Now, he'll get more blowback, but, both of them have independent platforms to a certain degree. They have some autonomy. But I'm going to tell you, the last month or so, I have been very impressed by Mr. Sharp's ability just to put on those 8-ounce gloves, take off the headgear, and letting those gifted hands go. He's been battling. He's been saying stuff that are like, oh, wow. So I'm going to say right now, my odds-on favorite would be Shannon Sharp.
Do you ask the question, now I'm going to ask you to answer it. Is ESPN and Disney so committed that they won't allow anyone to say it?
Yeah, that's my guess. That is the assumption. It's amazing. We literally had, I think this was about 2 years ago, Elle Duncan breaking into a middle of I think it was a women's college basketball game during the tournament. It was a 38-point blowout. And she gets out there, her own special breaking news. We love abortion, and we're going to stand up for it. I'm like, okay, that's the strangest halftime show I've ever seen. But in a situation like this, where NCAA games are actually being impacted, right? And the buzzword that we heard for so many years now is inclusion, and we need to give the spotlight, and we have to give the resources in terms of coverage and marketing to women's sports, because doggone it, you know what? We're about girl power. This is what we're all about. Well, here we go, where something absolutely chips away at the integrity of the competition and games are being canceled. I would like to think that's a little bit of a story, but here's the issue. On those platforms, it's not allowed to be. It's a non-story.
Steve, Butter, you got anything you want to throw in here?
Not specifically. I just don't understand why some of this doesn't fall a little bit more at the program level versus who's reporting on it. Like, where are the programs that are standing up in the?
Well, the programs are allowing the teams to not play. And look, the media has long had a role of leading communities, leading the public. It's our job, in my view, to be asking the right questions, promoting the right discussion, and playing somewhat of a leadership role in these communities. So I don't think it's an unreasonable expectation. Again, if Steve, is just like I said, Rachel Richardson allegedly got called the N-word, and it was front page news at ESPN, teams actually forfeiting and taking an L. This is volleyball we're talking about. If someone getting called a name is a big deal, how is the teams not forfeiting games? How is it not a big deal?
Yeah, and look, Butters brings up a very valid point. I actually wonder, though, if this becomes too hot to handle, will programs and athletic departments or directors basically say, hey, whoever doesn't take the court, or if you guys decide to forfeit or sit out, we're pulling your scholarships? Because I could actually see that. Okay. I wonder, though, let's say that happens and a team just decides, and there's a group of renegades out there saying, okay, we'll take the field. But as soon as that game starts, we're all just going to sit down. We're all just going to sit down and basically not move. Now, I actually think this is a great movement. I don't see how they can't report it, though. If a team just decides to literally lay down or sit down during the middle of a game, let every ball go or whatever they do, and they just lose every set 15-0. And that game's a 20-minute game, and it becomes a complete mockery. But I think Butters makes a great point. At what point do the programs moving forward, if it's not stated verbally, or at least externally to the public, do the coaches and the administrators say, you know what, look, we respect everyone's rights, but we have a prerogative ourselves that we're only going to have biological females, get this, on our female teams?
That would be shocking. What a controversial position.
Yeah,
They would only let women compete in a women's sport. I mean, holy cow. And you're getting Butter drunk over here by telling him what a great point he made. So be careful with that. That's usually when he spins out of control.
We're 10 minutes into
That's what
this,
spins
trust
him out
me.
of control. I know.
Trust me.
You give him praise though, and then he gets overconfident, and the next thing you know, he's. We've got to break out the butter box. So just be mindful of that, Steve. As we switch topics to LeBron James and Bronny James, and I have a new perspective on this, and this is going to shock people. I'm a longtime critic of LeBron James, but this is going to shock people. I was reading an ESPN story, and I think it was Anthony Davis talking about how energized LeBron was playing with Bronny, and it did make me say, like, hey man, I don't like LeBron forcing his son into the league, but hey, this may be brilliant strategy by the actual Lakers. If putting Bronny on the team makes LeBron go extra hard and be all into, like, I'm gonna have this historic season with my son on the team. It actually, I gotta defend the Lakers for doing it. If this is what it takes to inspire LeBron James in his 21st, 22nd, whatever season it is, actually, I think it's good strategy. Hats off to the Lakers.
Okay. He's energized. Jason, you realize training camp just started. Okay, like talk to me in January and February during the dog days of the association. I'm sure, I don't know what you had in your situation, but I think schools all across the country years ago, when there were much more two-parent homes, there was always, take your child to work day, right? So once a year, your father would take you to work, and you're like, wow, and everyone's excited, and your dad's, he wants you to see what you do for a living, and it was fun. Jason, would that be fun for fathers if they literally had to do that every single day for 8 months? I mean, the novelty would wear off at about what, Thursday of a week? Let's be honest about it. It's a great story now. It's all cutesy. Everyone's having a lot of fun with it. But again, we have not even gotten out of the preseason yet. Keep that in mind.
I'm going to say something real and a tiny bit uncomfortable, but there could be problems. A locker room environment and your son's in that locker room environment where an NBA culture is a very debaucherous culture. The conversations turn debaucherous. Guys start naming names about this or that. Would you want your son in that environment who also has to report in to his mom?
Yeah. Jason, do you remember that cinematic basketball classic starring, I think it was Omar Epps and Sanaa Lathan, Love and Basketball? Remember that?
Yeah.
I never understood why they chose USC for a basketball movie. But anyway, all right. So remember when Omar Epps' character found out that his dad played an NBA veteran? Guess what? He had options, that the road trips weren't just about basketball, and how stunned he was and how disappointed he was. Be honest. And again, I am not making any judgments or statements about LeBron. I have no idea. But in general, what you say about the NBA lifestyle, we all know what goes on there. The last thing you want as a father is to have little Junior tag along every single road trip. That's the reality. Love and basketball.
I'm going to, this type deal burned my father, actually. And I'm just tell a real story. My dad owned a little local bar, several, Jimmy's J Bar J, Masterpiece Lounge. And my dad had a problem with me liking white girls, just to be quite honest. And my dad was a very good looking guy, and he'd brag about, never slept with a white woman. but he used to let me hang out at the J Bar J in the Masterpiece Lounge. And his best friend, name's Dog, not William Ballard was his brother. I can't even think of Dog's first name. What Dog name's my dad's best friend. William and they were brothers. William and Dog were brothers. That's who my dad ran with. And I can remember the day Dog pulled me to the side. I was like, your father's lying. I know the white girl he used to Yeah. And so letting your kids hang out, yeah, that was a big moment for me. And I was like, whew. Anyway, that's TMI. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Father was a Rolling Stone, but he also did dip into the milk of magnesia. Okay. Okay.
He did, as Warren Sapp would say, yeah, he did a milk check.
Woo!
He did a milk check. My parents were divorced, by the way, so anyway.
No, really?
Just want to throw that in there.
Oh,
throw that in there for a little
Okay.
context. Yeah. Yeah. Daddy was a Rolling Stone. But he only had me and my brother. I'll give him he had very good discipline. Steve, I want to move on to Shadeur Sanders. And we talked a little bit yesterday, I think, about him avoiding Cam Newton. And then he was captured, I think, on camera, on tape, saying that Cam be on some weird SHIT. Let's play the clip.
Weird? You know what she did, bro. We're gonna talk. We're gonna talk. Talk now. It's somebody coming. Oh, say that.
Cam Newton has no idea that the hats, the bonnets, all of that, it cost his reputation. He had a brief moment where he was one of the great football players of all time for a brief moment. But that's not how people remember him, and this is why the hats, the hair, all that other stuff, all that extra stuff, guys don't respect it. And kids, again, he shows up dressed like a cartoon, and in living color character, and that's how you get treated. Instead of with great respect, people keep you at a distance. I don't blame Shadeur Sanders.
Okay, to be fair, he wears big hats. I don't think he actually wears a bonnet, Jason. No need to slander the guy. Gee. All right. I actually like the way Shadeur. Oh, jeez. Okay. But anyway, look, I like the way Shadeur handled that. You're supposed to be concentrating on the game. Your job is not to commiserate. I actually like the fact he was courteous enough to say, hey, man, okay, look, you're kind of on some stuff. And he said we could talk about it later. Now, I don't know what beef, as they say, they have. Maybe Cam made a comment on his show that sat wrong with Shedeur. That could certainly be an issue. But in general, Jason, I like my football players to actually concentrate, get this, on the game at hand. So I actually like the fact he was courteous enough to shake his hand, and then he walked away and prepared to lead his team to victory. I'm all with Shedeur on this one.
I kind of feel, and I hate to say this because I know Cam played at such a high level, but he kind of feels like an old dude back at a high school prom. Like he just doesn't, it doesn't feel right seeing him the way he's strolling on the field. As accomplished as he is, just feels off to me.
It's like a 45-year-old guy that's still hanging out at the nightclub.
Yeah, he's coming back.
Yeah, it's not good. Anyway,
yeah, but wait a minute,
Steve,
guys, to be fair,
go ahead.
Cam is a media member now, though. I mean, he has a show that he does every day. So, no, I'm being serious. So, like, I see fighters that fights all the time, and they work, they cover fights. So, come on, let's be a little easy on the Mad Hatter.
Well,
the bonnet.
How about dressing in a way that doesn't draw attention to yourself? And again,
that's
Shedeur is just saying, I don't want any NFL executive to think that I'm Cam Newton personality-wise. That's what he's trying to avoid, and that's a smart play that I'm sure his dad has told him privately. Good job, Dion. How about that? I said something positive about Dion. Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, rumors that he's dissatisfied and wants out of Miami. He tried to tamp those rumors down yesterday by saying he's all good and they're going through some adversity. But again, they've lost Tua Tagovailoa to concussions again. Tua's going to come back, but anybody that's smart would be like, hey, how long is Tua going to last when he comes back? And let's look at this video of Tyreek screaming at Mike McDaniel. Tyreek saying that, again, he's got no problem in Miami, but I'm not so sure. Play the little, it's just a 10-second video of Tyreek screaming at Mike McDaniel. Tyreek screaming at, there we go. I'm not sure. We will skip the video and just go to Steve. Do you think Tyreek Hill is satisfied and a lifelong member of the Miami Dolphins?
No, look, and by the way, they showed the video, but I would have taken your word for it. Look, this is their typical receiver. I don't think it's unusual. It's not necessarily a personal indictment on Tyreek. But if you look at his production post-Tua, it's the funniest thing. We all kind of disrespect Tua in our own ways. That Dolphins offense without him cannot function. In fact, they're just flat out bad. And I saw some stats that post-concussion with that Buffalo Bills game, Tyreek is basically a decoy. He runs a lot of clear-outs and doesn't make a lot of plays. He wants to make plays. He's still in the thick of his athletic prime. But here's a question, Jason, for you. If the Dolphins season is over, which it looks like already, and you've got one of your better defensive players, Jalen Phillips, he's now out for the year. So in the immortal words of the philosopher Michael Ray Richardson, this ship be sinking, okay? And the SS McDaniels hit the iceberg. If you are the Dolphins, do you now look to shop Tyreek Hill and get what you can and start looking towards the future? And I have a team in mind.
I don't.
You don't? Really?
Oh, no, I don't. Look, you draft a quarterback, you get a quarterback, these rookie quarterbacks are playing well. Why deny them a weapon like Tyreek Hill? You could run into the next Jaden Daniels.
Okay, so you really think they might be 2-15 then, Jason? 'Cause that's what it's going to take. And by the way,
no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Here's the thing, because I was just thinking about it. I know of a certain team that needs a wide receiver. I know of a certain team that knows all about Tyreek. I know of a team that could really, really use him. Kansas City, like peaches and herb. Reunited. I don't know if it's going to feel so good, but it fits, Jason. It fits.
Well, they paid Mahomes. They paid Chris Jones. Can they swallow Tyreek's contract?
Well, that you'd have to work that out. But right now, with Rashee Rice on the mend, looks like he's out for the year. I just heard that Hollywood Brown's out for an extended period of time, if not out for the year. Jason, they have no threats outside. You're really going to rely on Juju Smith-Schuster right now to anchor you outside, and with the declining Travis Kelce, it's 4-0, but I'm going to say it right now. It's going to be a bumpy ride for the Kansas City Chiefs. As I say that for the third time in 3 years, I get it.
Yeah, I don't think the Chiefs can afford it. They just circled back to Kareem Hunt. Maybe they would want to circle back to Tyreek Hill. I'm kind of non-committed. No, I don't think the Chiefs are the right play. I think he needs to stick in Miami. I think Miami would be crazy for letting him go under any circumstances. Whoever is lining up at quarterback will benefit from Tyreek Hill being there. They paid Tyreek a lot of money. Now, Tyreek could turn into a problem. You know, he could be Stephon Diggs and these other guys, But you know what I would do if I was Miami? I'd go tell Tyreek, hey, the Bills want you. You ready to go to Buffalo? I bet you Tyreek says no.
No, he would be a consummate.
Like, hey, baby mama number 7 and 8 may be tough to get in Buffalo.
Well, at that point, you threaten a guy with Buffalo, and Tyreek Hill will be the consummate professional. That I agree with.
Steve, finally, I want to get your thoughts here on, am I making too much of this video of Chicago Bulls players? And this, when I say athletes have been emasculated, this video is exactly what I'm talking about. Look at the Chicago Bulls. This is, I think, media day. They're doing a little dance. And when I first saw this couple, I was like, no, hold on. Who is that? Is this the WNBA? Does the Bulls get a WNBA team? Am I making too much of this, or does this look a little?
I'm with you. Johnny Red Kerr is rolling over in his grave. Chet Walker is rolling over. Jerry Sloan. Could you imagine Jerry Sloan doing that? Could you imagine old tough guy Michael Jeffrey Jordan would never. And just the way these guys are built, guys, you don't have a Bowflex or a Nautilus machine. They're off season. They're not exactly in a strength and conditioning program. But again, I'm an older guy. I get it. I accept it. I am who I am. It is things like that, Jason, and maybe I'm wrong. I get it. I'm not changing, but it's things like that when I watch. I said, I'm out on the NBA. I am. That's just the way I work. I'm done. I'm done. Ugh. Jeez. Even Benny the Bull. They got Benny the Bull doing that. Benny the Bull. That's a fine mascot. Why debase yourself? Jeez.
I can't deal with this long hair and pulled up from these dudes. They're going to the same beauty salons as their mothers. I can't take it. I can't deal with it. I don't. And the whole dance craze. Everybody now dances. It used to be Billy White Shoes Johnson and a couple guys. Now everybody in sports can't wait to dance. I'm going back, and I'm really old and old school, but it's like I'm going back to the days when dudes didn't dance, and that's like real men don't dance. Butter,
I don't know the whole context, Steve. I don't know what was going on there. It sounded like maybe Ring Around the Rosie. If it was Ring Around the Rosie,
that makes
maybe
sense.
that's an issue, but it might have been a little trend they were doing. Didn't seem that bad.
Jason, you were right, Butterbox. He started off good.
Overconfident.
Terribly. I get it. Got to throw me, bring in the Butterbox. I mean, look, I don't mind.
I'm going to let Steve make this call. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Executive decision on my show.
I'll let Steve.
Now, look, I didn't mind the old things like the Cabbage Patch, the Crip Walk, the RoboCop, the Troop. These dances at least look somewhat, I don't know, masculine, but I wonder what Charles Oakley, I wonder what Oak has to say about this. That's all I'm going to say. We need to get Charles Oakley, get his thoughts on this. Jeez.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Great job as always. We'll see you again tomorrow. Hey, guys, I want to put a button, but it's not a button on the show because Shemeka Michelle is going to come on. But this entire conversation I started with in an A block about the Cis Rights Movement and just how important I think it is, and just taking the scales off people's eyes and just understanding how corrupt and how immoral the other side is. And many of you, I'm sure, watch the presidential debates, from the vice president, from Walz and J.D. Vance, Kamala and Donald Trump. You see how biased all of this media is. And they won't, as I was explaining today about corporate media and how they won't even address one of the biggest things we have going on in sports, this boycotting. This is a clear movement. There are now 4 teams, Utah State, Southern Utah, Wyoming, Boise State, that have refused to compete against San Jose State and their male volleyball player. Women's volleyball team won't play against this male volleyball player. There's men's volleyball. There's an outlet for this man to play volleyball. He's chosen to call himself a woman and compete. The media won't cover it. Media won't cover it. That's why you need an alternative source for news and information. And that's where we here at Fearless Mission come in. I want you all to go to fearlessmission.com and sign up for a subscription. Use the promo code FEARLESS40 at checkout. You'll get 40% off. I want you to go for fearlessmission.com. Sign up for a subscription. You'll get access to everything I do, everything we do here at The Blaze. You need an alternative media site. It will help bring the scales off your eyes so you can see what's really happening in this world. fearlessmission.com. Use the promo code fearless and the number 4040. You'll get 40% off, $40 off at checkout for an annual subscription that will give you access to everything I do and everything we do here at The Blaze. Shemeka Michelle, next. Don't miss a second of Fearless. We'll be right back, but check out this clip from an earlier show. And I want to just give you a little tiny bit of background on Matt Barnes before I play you this clip that triggered, and it's why we're doing today's show. But I want to walk you through just who we got Dumb and Dumber on All the Smoke, and I would think Matt Barnes plays the role of dumb, but I actually think he's dumber than Steven Jackson. And so let me walk you through just Matt Barnes' background in the NBA. And then I'm gonna take even further back into his background because he's talking about it with the Vice President of the United States. Wait for us, let me walk you through this. November 2008, suspended 2 games while playing for the Phoenix Suns for his role in an on-court fight with Rafer Alston of the Houston Rockets. October 2012, suspended for the Los Angeles Clippers season opener after pleading no contest to a misdemeanor for resisting, delaying, or obstructing a police officer. February 2013, suspended 1 game while playing for the Clippers after hitting Greg Stiemsma of the Minnesota Timberwolves in the net. December 2014, fined $25,000 while playing for the Clippers for kicking a water bottle and directing profanity at fans in Washington. I think he directed the inappropriate language towards James Harden's mother, but anyway, May 8th, 2015, directing more inappropriate language at a fan. That may have been towards James Harden's mother. All right, welcome back. Shemeka Michelle joining us to find out what was popping in the chats. How was the show received? Were there any super chats? And before we do any of that, just Shemeka, your thoughts on what transpired on today's show.
Okay, Jason, before I get to the chat, let me say it took you 40 minutes to shout me out. So that was my thoughts, my first thought on the show, because back in 2016, 2017, I had T.S. Madison, a very popular Black transgender, come for my neck. The Alphabet Mafia was so upset with me, I thought I was going to come outside my house to rainbows burning on the lawn. So I just couldn't understand, like, what is taking Jason so long to give me my props? So thank you for doing that. And while we're at it, I want to give props to Angela Stanton King. I want to add her to your list because she went on national television and stood 10 toes down against her own son, who dresses like a woman. So it's very close to her. So I'm adding to the list. But I appreciate you doing this show, Jason, because women have been saying this, you know, some of us for a while, and I agree with you that it's time for men to stand up. It really burns me up when I see men, like some in the chat, saying, well, this is what women wanted. And when I hear that, it makes me think about when God came to Adam to ask about, you know, hey, eating the fruit, and he said, it was that woman you gave me. No, men are supposed to lead. So I wish men would do that more and lead, regardless of what you think a woman wanted. Obviously, from the beginning of time, women have made very poor decisions. So we need the men to stop saying, this is what the women wanted, and actually stand up and lead. So I appreciate you saying that. I thought it was a great show, and I'm loving the new cisgender, you know, Cis Rights Movement. I'm in for it.
Awesome. I am too. When I came up with that idea this morning, everybody was, you know, astounded that, you know, I came up with that all on my own. It's my no, I didn't come up with it, but thank you so much, David Reed. All right, what was popping in the chat?
Okay, so we have 3 questions, 1 comment that you're gonna love, and then we have to do a pronunciation lesson for you, okay? So I'm gonna start with the comment that you will love from the Sage Steele podcast. Said, thank you for this, Jason. And yes, beyond disappointed that there aren't more of us, especially men. We need your help, guys. LFG. Lay's, Fritos, and Gerber.
Let's freaking go. Yeah, there we go. Sage Steele, thank you for that. That's good stuff. What else?
Question from Milan Fan Club San Diego says, Jason, what do you think of me calling the WNBA a godless coven of witches? Am I being too harsh? Hashtag fearless.
No, you're not being too hard, and I do think that's changing. That's what Caitlin Clark is changing about the league, and that's why there's such a fight in the league, because they want to protect the witch coven that they have. But I do think things are changing. Good comment. Appreciate the super chat.
And I'm glad you said Caitlin Clark. I want you to know you had the chat on fire earlier because you said Caitlyn Jenner. And we were all on the edge of our seats. You know, I trust you, but I was thinking, oh my God. So the chat was on fire.
Isn't Bruce Jenner, doesn't he call himself Caitlyn? Doesn't Bruce Jenner call himself Caitlyn?
Yes, but I think you said it meaning Caitlin Clark. And it just, we were all on the edge of our seat in the chat.
Oh, yeah, that was an accident. Sorry about that.
Maurice Fry said, RuPaul been around forever. When did this become a thing?
RuPaul was, not part of the mainstream, not dictating society. We weren't all bending over backwards to make sure that RuPaul wasn't offended by anything we said. But, it's become a thing, I think, in the last 10 years and in the last 5 years in particular. But yeah, RuPaul used to be someone off in the corner that would appear on some talk shows from time to time. But now RuPaul is probably the host of the talk show and rather than the guest on a talk show. And so I can't say exactly when it became a thing, but in recent years.
Yes, and I want to add, Jason, that RuPaul was okay with us knowing he was a man. Now they want us to actually change what we know and consider them women, even when they have what you call bat and balls and be in women's spaces. RuPaul had his own space. He knew he was a man, and we all, we knew that. Now they're on something different, and I think that has really changed the dynamics of it. Here's another question, or the last question. What would we fight for, Jason? They said they don't need us. They said they want gay friends. They say they are boss ladies who need no help. So what the F I'm supposed to do?
Shemeka, help me interpret that. Is that a black man talking about black women? Should I interpret it that way? Is that what he's trying to convey to me?
It would sound like it, because we know that black women always say, I need a gay friend, and call themselves boss bees. And so either it's a black man asking about black women or a white man that knows black women very well.
So what are we supposed to do? If I'm asking just authentically, or if I'm answering authentically, it's just like, hey man, this is why we have to put aside all of these superficial differences and just deal with women, regardless of color, who recognize that they need a man, and women should deal with men who recognize they need a woman, and that, together they can, accommodate, help each other or whatever. But I would just, you just got to find a woman who recognizes she needs a man, and that, she's not there for leadership, of that man. She's there to submit to that man who is, and only submit and follow if he's submitted and following to God. So that's my very serious answer to a question that was serious. And I think that's all I got, Shemeka, unless Butter,
We got the
Shemeka, you got anything else?
pronunciation.
Oh, what's the pronunciation? What did I pronounce wrong?
Okay,
About to
so
find out.
Oh,
yeah, and I want to make sure you and Butter know how to say it correctly. You say Yas Queen, and it's not Yas. The way you say Yas is not right. You're putting too much class with it. I think, Jason, you're trying to make it sound too bougie. It's yes. So I need you to say it the correct way. It's Yas Queen.
yes.
Yes.
Queen.
Yes, not
Yes,
Yas.
Queens. Really?
Yes. Butter, let's hear you try it.
Yes.
Yes. There you go.
Yes. Now you got it, Jason. Yes.
These yes queens. There we
Yeah.
go. All right. Learn my lesson for today. Thank you, Shemeka. Thank you, Butter. Thank you all for watching. We'll play tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be. I just want